officials invade your house and confiscate all you have worked hard for? Have you ever thought what you would do if you don't have the right to higher education? Have you ever seen anyone who is arrested and jailed, not because of committing a crime or doing something wrong, only because they have been doing community building projects and they have been educating others? As a child, I was always worried that when the time comes for my higher education, I'll be able to enter national universities or not. The time came and I didn't, due to my religious beliefs. My dad, with a master's degree from Georgia Tech University, was expelled from his profession. All my grandfather's properties were confiscated. My name is Nikki. I'm a Bahai and I'm from Iran. Iran is a beautiful country. It's really diverse. People, most of the public are compassionate and open-minded. I have friends from diverse ethnic and religious backgrounds. They are Muslims, Christians, Jewish, Azeri, Kurd. But there is a group of people who don't like this diversity. They especially don't like Bahais. Bahai faith is a religion which was established in Iran over 150 years ago. And it emphasizes on teachings like oneness of humankind, harmony of religion and science, importance of education. From its inception, Bahais of Iran were persecuted. And in the last 30 years, it became worse and systematic, making its way into constitution. I couldn't go to national universities, but I had a unique, exceptional educational experience. A group of expelled Bahai professionals and professors came together 30 years ago and established an informal network of education to compensate for the violation of these human rights in response to the exclusion of Bahais from national universities. I studied in a university where campus was a network of homes, and we were always careful not to attract any attention. Our professors took risks and still do in order to provide us access to higher education. I studied in the architecture program, which was formed by professionals like Mr. Tusu. He was one of the smartest and most competent architects I've ever seen. His father-in-law was abducted and murdered in 1978 after the Islamic Revolution. And his brother-in-law is one of the Bahais, one of the ad hoc administrators, who are currently in prison and sentenced to 20 years of imprisonment. What do you think he did in response? Even though he had the opportunity to leave Iran, to live a safe and comfortable life, he did not, as he was feeling responsible for educating the next generation of Bahais. He stayed there. He opened not only his heart, but also his home and his personal office to us students, to have classes there all the time. Even though he was interrogated and arrested several times, but he was always available to help us students, I studied physics with Mr. Badamon. After he graduated from MIT in 1980, he came back to Iran. After the Islamic Revolution, he was fired and later arrested and sentenced to 3 years of imprisonment because of being a Bahai. What do you think he did after he was released from prison? He did not leave Iran. He started educating Bahai young people, Bahai deprived students, an act which later became a central part of his life. Then again in May 2011, he was arrested with 7 other of his colleagues. The students of his physics class took the final exam of their class while their professors was in prison for teaching them. They were charged with conspiracy against national security and spreading corruption on earth. So teaching physics and math was considered as spreading corruption on earth. He is currently in Raja Shah prison, which is one of the most notorious prisons in the world. With the undergraduate education that I received, and these professors offered me. When I came to US, I could get admission for a 2-year master program from UC Berkeley. Despite constant opposition, several arrests, sporadic raids, this informal network of education, this informal Baha'i university, has sustained itself in a constructive and resilient manner. They educated a new generation of Bahais, of young Bahais, who became more instrumental in moving the institute forward, and they also became more competent in helping their country. Farhan and Kamran are amongst these new generation. Kamran was a teenager when they came after his dad, arrested him, tortured him, and later executed him. Later, they confiscated all they had, leaving them in great financial and emotional distress and hardship. Despite all these problems, Kamran grew up to be a successful man. He studied in the Bahai University and later got admission for his master's degree from Carleton University in psychology. Upon graduation, he went back to Iran. Then he got married to Farhan, who had also come back from Canada. Young couple established a School of Nonviolence Communication, pioneered by Marshall Rosenberg. They traveled to all parts of Iran. Moreover, they translated his book into Farsi for the first time. The government of Iran treated them with great hatred and violence, but they spread the ways of nonviolent communication. The government of Iran took everything they had, but they gave everything they could for the betterment of their country. In May 2011, they were arrested, both of them, and sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment for their voluntary service of educating young Bahais. Now it's 2 years that the 3-year-old son, Artin, has to wait in line every weekend to visit his parents in prison with his old grandma. What do you think they are doing in prison? They are holding classes and therapy sessions for other prisoners to keep them hopeful and active. All these persecutions that Baha'i community is going through is painful and heartbreaking. Even one of them is enough to make us devastated, full of anger, anxiety, and hatred. But are these really the reactions of Baha'is in Iran? Is it what is happening? I can assure you, it's not. Baha'is have channeled their pain in a constructive way, based on what their spiritual teacher Abdu'l-Baha has taught them. Pay ye no heed to aversion and rejection, to disdain, hostility, and injustice. Act ye in the opposite way. Be ye sincerely kind, not in appearance only. One of my very close friends is Bashu. He's very handsome. I'm sorry that I had to make his, for obvious reason, I had to make his face glaring. He's a big fan of Canon, so I left the Canon sign. So, he was 11 months old when they came after his dad, who was a dentist, arrested him, and after 4 months, put him to death. His parents were newly married. He doesn't remember his dad. What do you think he's doing now in Iran? With him, I was involved in a project to teach Afghan children literacy and general skills. While Baha'is are deprived of the right of going to university, Afghan children in Iran are deprived of even going to school, the right of going to school. So we turn to them to teach them the same lesson, that living in an oppressive circumstance shouldn't hinder us from enriching ourselves and enriching our communities. Some of our students didn't even know how to hold a pen in their hands. Even though we were engaged and we were involved in a social welfare project, but we were always at risk of getting arrested by government officials because due to our religious beliefs, as was always the case with our friends all over Iran. For instance, one of my friends, Sami, who is 27 years old, was helping to stop the execution of minors, pushing for their verdicts to change from hanging to imprisonment. She also traveled to places that were hit by earthquake to help people in the process of rehabilitation. She was arrested last year and sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment. In her court, she was told that as a Baha'i, she doesn't even have the right to be present in places that have been hit by earthquake to help people. Later, they experienced an earthquake in her hometown, and she was wondering if she has the right to stay in her home or not. Now there are over 118 innocent Bahais in prison all over the world. So I told you all these stories because there is one lesson that I have learned. And that is, even in the darkest time and place, if the priority is helping others, we grow stronger every day. After 30 years of constant, utmost great social and economic pressure and oppressions, Baha'i community of Iran is still alive. We are still happy and full of hope and positive energy. Baha'i community of Iran is promoting peace in an environment where even a 3-year-old kid is not safe from injustice. The purpose of life is to work for the betterment of